Hello. Um, we are spiritual beings in a physical body. Our thought creates reality, or what is material, and we are all connected to other human beings. Now, we live in a complicated world, and I'm now making these videos only for a very few people, even though like I said, my original intention was different. It was to show real physical things that were negative to us, to humans, and I say humans because, like I say, that sounds stupid to say that, and kind of, I don't know, I feel odd saying it, but at the same time, that is the only word I can use to describe the difference between different people, because some, all people look the same, just as all animals look the same, but they have different personalities, they're different types. And sometimes that difference, because we're talking about spirituality here, and who would have ever thought that I, for instance, would be talking about spirituality? 2.5 years ago, I would not have been talking about spirituality. I would have thought that was some sort of religious thing, and I never considered myself spiritual at all. But just because I didn't consider myself spiritual, and because I didn't have any beliefs or denominations or religions that I followed or anything like that, that doesn't mean that the Matrix did not see me as kind of spiritual, because that's what occurred to me when the Matrix opened up to me. In other words, that's when you see the world in a slightly bigger way, as opposed to just seeing what's on your own street. But of course, the Matrix is everywhere, so actually the Matrix is 100% on your own street. It's just that even there, you don't see it, because if you walk down the street and you don't see what is on the street, you don't see the minds of the humans that are on that street. You don't know what makes them tick, and you assume, as I did all my life. I used to say all human beings are very similar. I used to say, oh yes, there's the odd exception of an odd psychopath that you might hear about, that's one in a couple of billion, that sort of thing. I've always said this. But most human beings, by and large, even though some are more angry than others and some are more happy and some show what they are more, there's always a reason why a human even does negative things, shall we say. So I thought they were all the same. So I didn't actually sort of ever think that there was that much difference between even negative and positive human beings, if you follow, because I thought, hey, I've done just as many negative things in my life. In fact, more personal things, because to me, personally, I would have said someone that robs a bank is more honourable than someone like myself that may have done damage to those that are closest to me. You hurt someone that is your own kind, your own blood, your own relative or something like that. That is a lot worse than going and taking from someone you don't know in a funny kind of way, I would have said. In other words, so I would have considered myself worse than a bank robber, or, what you would class, I would actually say that. Because also those, because even bank robbers, they're not taking directly from people. Some people might say, oh, well, you are, because people work and this sort of thing, and there's truth to that. But that's only because we live in a matrix, in a system. And, So there's actually no intent that way. It's just that because we live in a matrix system and humans operate for that system and so therefore are part of it, of course, when you even take from the system, shall we say, or take from the matrix, which is a material thing. The matrix is material. So if you take some physical thing from the matrix, if you take something that supposedly isn't yours, whereas really the matrix is the earth. And, you know, like if we're spiritual beings and we're human beings, it's only because the earth is now a matrix that it's different, whereas in the original fantasy earth that I don't dwell in but still cling on to that fantasy because I know it doesn't exist anymore, but it keeps me a little bit sane to think that we came from something that was more natural, a natural earth, and that everything should have and would have been for everyone and more harmonious. But having said that, see, I'm getting angry because I realise that the matrix has everything covered. So whatever you say, to say we were once in harmony, one, you know, then some people would say, well, yes, we shall go back to that. So we shall do all sorts of wrong things. We shall commit evil, anti-life, in order to bring the earth back to its natural, harmonious state. You see, you can't do that. I'm getting angry because this is the matrix. The matrix uses truth and good and even nature and all the things that I ramble on about to seduce humans to do anti-life, you know, because that is the matrix, because it must stay low frequency. It's a matrix now. You can't, anyone who's under the delusion, and I'm sorry if I'm a bit funny because yes, I'm out of balance and yes, that could be misconstrued too. All these things that I say in these videos could do more harm than good. The only reason I make them is because I now realise that the few that listen actually are above this, so they're okay. But if I'm saying this to, which was my original intent, to talk to someone like myself, who was like just an average so-called normal human being, which I now realise, of course, I wasn't, because otherwise the matrix would not have opened up to me, shall we say. So clearly the matrix, I'm getting confused here again, but clearly the matrix might see someone like myself who was not a spiritual human being. You see, I only realise that now because of the matrix, because I'm saying, why did the matrix open up to some ignorant person like me who was very much into the physical? But maybe I was still into the physical in some ways at a life level, but not an evil anti-life level as the matrix is. The matrix works against life because that's what it is here for. Now, that gives the matrix an excuse and gives it validity, and also gives the humans a reason for being here, maybe. See, all this you can take whichever way you want. And I honestly, you know, like I say, you can go along any line you like. Some of the religious lines are hitting closer to the truth, provided you don't get bogged down in that too, in some ways, because in some ways, you know, it fits and has truth in it. Everything has truth in it. This is the problem. Finding the rock bottom truth. And then again, if you think that, I say we create the reality, yes, but you see, we create the reality, but we can't create it fully ourselves because we're not connected, even though we're meant to be. But you see, we are now connected to the matrix, not connected to the few human beings, you see. The matrix is artificial, and the matrix is fully connected. As I said before, every matrix member, disciple, whatever word you want, anyone that operates for the matrix is working for the matrix in harmony. The matrix has mind control there. The matrix even has those that are the matrix, if you follow. In other words, if the matrix is technical and you become a technical being, then you are the matrix. You serve the matrix and you are part of the matrix. You are part of the matrix world. That is your religion, if you like. That is your belief system. That is your being. You are a technical matrix being. I don't know what I'm talking about here. All this is fantasy, as you know. It's trying to make some sort of fantastic thing out of this so-called reality. Now, it's up to you which way you take it. That's, the only thing you do have left is a bit of free choice. If that's, I would beg to differ on that, but, you have but like I say, you don't have free choice if you are a part of something. Because if you are a part of something and you believe that that is you and that is part of you and that is your religion, that is your belief system, that is your whole focus, you're not going to worry if the matrix does things that you disagree with, because you're going to see that is my God. And even if I personally disagree or think it's a bit unusual or find it strange, you will say, well, God knows all, so therefore you will go with the matrix and the matrix God. Now, I don't know what I'm talking about here, as you can well see, as usual. Now, I don't know much about this matrix God, right? Apart from the fact that I know that he works always in the negative against the human beings, because that is this world. It is a, as I said in the previous video, a maximum security prison for the criminally insane. Except that not everyone in the maximum security matrix prison Earth is criminally insane, but most are. That is the normal personality type. The psychopath is now the normal human being, in the sense that a psychopath only lives for themselves and is anti-life against anything that doesn't serve him or her or itself, if you follow. And that is very much like the matrix God, except that the matrix God is the matrix God. And so his disciples and members and followers and children, if you like, yes, perhaps children is a good thing, because, children always, have to obey their parents, or at least they used to. Or anyone in authority, the powers that be, the authority figures at school, authority figures in the law, in your, the world that has been created for us and that most people adhere to and like and believe in, and it is the matrix God's world. This is putting it simply, even though I am finding it hard to concentrate because, like I say, I'm out of balance because one of my ears is blocked up. So and this balance thing too is something that that the matrix is always trying to get into balance, and many humans will go, even the matrix God will convince humans that yes, that things are out of balance. But you see, the matrix God does that because people want to be in balance. Even those that are in the matrix still have beliefs for a a more better world, etc., etc. But it is not something that can be achieved, I don't think. You can't do anti-life. The old saying, the end justifies the means. Sometimes you have to do evil in order to make the world good. Sometimes some have to be sacrificed for the good of all. But this is anti-life. This, in my view, even though this is a fantasy, I think that if you're a spiritual being, it doesn't matter what the situation in the world is. It doesn't matter if the world is falling apart. It doesn't matter if the matrix is about to end. If the individual does not stay true to their own ideas of what they think is proper life and what they think is the correct way for them to be, if they start to think that, oh yes, a few are more important than others. And this is, don't forget, we live in a reverse world, so whatever the matrix shows you will be the opposite. And I hate to, say this, but it's a bit like I always use movies and TV shows and things, for example, because it's all there. But for each person, it will be something different. Now, I'm going to ramble here, but there was an old TV show, even old TV shows. I'm big on the old stuff, not the new stuff, as you know. So I'm way behind because there's a lot more details in new stuff. There's very little details, and old stuff is not explicit. The new stuff is a lot more explicit. It is actually shoving in your face in some ways this matrix reality, or at least what is behind it at a certain level, at a physical level even, shall we say. But I don't understand it all because it's all a big fantasy and a big fairy tale, as I've said before. But still, it's like saying, oh well, we have a certain system, we have our, you appointed chief or a leader, and those that are with them. You have a hierarchy very much in this world. The Matrix is all about a hierarchy. The Matrix isn't about like the original, my fantasy original Earth of a few human beings plonked on a natural world and allowed to just do what they want, and nature provides them with everything, and there's no opposing force. They're not going to be tested. But I could be wrong. Maybe it was all like that from the start, but certainly there was the potential to keep it at a harmonious, these words are no good. Everything is no good. Whatever I say is no good because the Matrix has it all covered. Whatever you say will be putting you into some sort of compartment. I hearken back to, I didn't take much notice and was even a bit flattered because I was so ignorant and was just starting to make videos and really did not see half of what I now see, because I realised that things were around me and I wondered why, and I needed to know why. In other words, why things were changing around me and why I was focused on, shall we say. But that's because I didn't realise that the world revolves around the human, like I said. I didn't know that. But, back to a Danger Man episode. I used to watch a little old 60s show called Danger Man. And, there was nothing profound in it at all. I just enjoyed it. It was a secret agent, old secret agent show. But there was an episode in it. I now realise that even in these old shows, there was much more in them. But it was below the surface. It wasn't obvious. And, of course, if you're talking about spies and secret agent, of course you're going to have something slightly even there again, that would be what we would have thought would have been the secret reality. But of course, there's much more to this reality than just that. There's not just a few secret agents that operate at the higher levels behind the scenes in your kind of countries where, I don't like to go into politics, and I don't understand politics and have no interest in it. I had no interest in religion or politics, as I said, for a lifetime. Avoided it. But that doesn't mean that the Matrix didn't see me as religious, because you see, the Matrix is such a nitpicker that you could do something spiritual even low. You are not religious or spiritual. In other words, if you do something that aligns with a religious thing or a religious way or a life way, then the Matrix does not particularly like that, because it doesn't want the frequency to rise, I don't think, you see. So what I'm trying to say is that before I saw the Matrix, I probably was doing just the odd thing, not all the time, because most of the time, most of my life, I've done diabolically wrong things, in my opinion now, because I also realise that the Matrix sets you up to do things that are opposed to what you really should be doing and what you would want to do, and opposed to those that are your real spiritual partners or friends, shall we say. It will direct you towards its Matrix partners and friends, as opposed to your spiritual human partners and friends. You will be deceived, as I have. I have rejected and destroyed in my life those that were the same as me, I think now, and actually embraced the Matrix disciples, in the sense that they're negative human beings for me. A Matrix disciple is someone who is negative to a real human being, even if that real human being is misguided and totally off track, like I was and still am to some extent, and and doesn't believe in spirituality, and doesn't believe in the Matrix, and doesn't believe in any of that sort of stuff, in any of it. Just is struggling to basically get by, and trying to be as normal as possible, and trying to find a little bit of contentment at a very basic physical human level. But at any rate, I'm just going to try to keep on track here. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, but I'm also glad in a way, because I am so limited and so poor at making these videos, and so poor at getting coherent thoughts coming to make them properly. Because originally I wanted to talk simply to someone who was like myself, a so-called in the dark, normal human being, but who just did not see basic physical things around them. I'm talking physical here too, I'm not talking spiritual, because the spiritual will expose itself to you in physical ways. It's just that you won't see it until the Matrix totally comes down or totally opens up to you. And that will be negative once it does that, because the Matrix generally hides. The Matrix is usually covert. If it becomes what they call overt, I think that's the word, the opposite. In other words, it shows itself, then it will show its negativity, because the way it operates generally is in covert. And most people are happy with that too. That's another point that I'm going to hit on, and it's a big thing. And hey, I would have been happy to stay in the covert Matrix. So clearly that's why I got on this path, because I was happy to stay in the Matrix and to live simply in the Matrix. But someone like me, even living simply and doing very little, was The wrong vibration for the matrix, you see. Now, I will use an example of this. I don't know whether I have before. I try to use examples that have happened to me in my real physical life. Because quite frankly, I only really live in a physical life. I know I talk all spiritual and all the rest of it because I know it's true, but I am in the matrix and I only experience the physical and the matrix. I don't see anything beyond the matrix. But everything that the matrix, there's a thing called synchronicity, right? And that is just simply, which I experienced about 2 years ago. And immediately I knew that just what I saw, even in the physical, was a reflection of showing me the spiritual. In other words, you see a sign or you see an ad up on a billboard, and before it was just an advertisement for a product, and before it was just a pretty beautiful face of some model or some person advertising something, and you'd be besotted and beguiled by that. Whereas now, I would read what it says or look at it and get another message. But that isn't because I've gone to another level. What is written there will tell you in clear print. It's just that you will not take it at face value, whereas you might be meant to. And it will make sense to you because it will just come to you that, hey, that is what is happening now in my life. I could use examples of this, but I will, but there's a lot. It happens all the time. It happens to everybody. It's even like coincidence. Any coincidence, what you see that pops up when you. I've mentioned this before. Like if you're thinking about, I've seen this with other people. They're thinking about certain things and then it just shows up. That is synchronicity, but it is also the reality coming in too, because the matrix mainly controls your thinking and what you create, because it controls your frequency. Because I think the matrix, this is my own view here, a fantasy view, we have a conscious and a subconscious mind. I have no control. I don't know what my subconscious is thinking now. I know science tells me it even exists. I don't know what it's thinking. But it is just as powerful as my conscious mind. And it is creating. And it, I think, is what the matrix controls. Because I still think that I have some control over my conscious mind. Not a lot, because the matrix will hit you at a physical level. And the physical then will overwhelm you. Like I said, if you're in a war zone, you haven't got time to be spiritual. You're too busy battling for your survival. And this is what it's like, you see. It's like that. You're too busy coping with the physical difficulties that might be around you. And as I said before, this is a covert war too, a covert battle that is now nearly over, because it is nearly over and it has been going on because we've not been aware of it, because it isn't played at a physical level with guns and things like we would expect, or with the sorts of weapons. It is played to where you could be looking at a completely peaceful looking suburban area, for instance, even in Sydney where I live. And it would look perfectly peaceful and pleasant to a person of the matrix. But they would not be aware of the covert battle that is being waged against the humans, because it will not be obvious, because the matrix is super advanced and super intelligent, and also it knows your thinking, so it can hit you at any level, at a mental level and at a physical level too. Because myself, I find that the physical level is being hit harder, because at a mental level now, if you become aware, you can get round certain things, but you cannot stop the matrix from hitting you at a physical level, which is kind of ironic, because I'm talking about being a spiritual being, and yet I'm saying the physical is actually reigning. The physical is actually dominating, which is strange. Now, whether that means that I am not spiritual enough and of course it means that I'm definitely not at a reasonable frequency. Of course, everything is frequency, vibration and energy. So of course, because the matrix is controlling my frequency and vibration and therefore the energy, and therefore it is able to manifest, I would think, I don't know whether that's the right word, it sounds good, any sort of negativity, but it is still covert. In other words, it won't, like a bit like I say, if an aeroplane goes over and it makes a low vibrational negative noise, because I have the planes going right over, that is covert. That is the covert a matrix, because to an outsider that's, well, you chose to live under a thing, which I actually didn't, because they changed the flight path. But it's, because the matrix can change things. The matrix can change things in a blink of an eye. And that's what I have noticed, is that the matrix is now escalating and changing things at a very fast pace, whereas in the past, at least to my memory of things in the past, this did not happen. Things changed much slower and you had warning, whereas now there will be no warning because the matrix has assumed full power. And by that I mean it's always had full power, but what I'm saying, it's had to be covert, and it still is covert. But to those that are aware of it, it doesn't have to be covert, but it still has to present itself as covert to those that aren't that are unaware, because it wants to keep the matrix going, and I've lost track of it here. My fantasy has spiraled out into all proportions, as you can see. But you see, there are different types of, as I say, different types of humans and different types of beings on the matrix. So, different human beings. A psychopath is not going to be too worried about the matrix. And that's another thing too, as I said before, the personality of human beings, whereas once, I thought all humans were the same and psychopaths were limited. No, everything is reversed round now. The numbers are the opposite to that. The self-centered psychopathic personality now rules the world, even at a human level. And once you get past, once you get to true psychopathic level, you have branched away from a spiritual human being in a funny kind of way. You're still human, but, maybe you could come back, I don't know. But, because there's degrees in everything, and I don't know what I'm talking about here, I get frustrated because it's difficult. But at any rate, there was an old Danger Man episode. I've got to try to get back on track. And in that, there was one episode where I remember where Danger Man, he's the main character in it, he's the secret agent. He was trying to expose, a secret organisation, that was doing negative stuff, pretty much like the Matrix, I suppose, in a way, because it's secret only not to everyone, but it's secret to some human beings, because human beings, because they are the power of the Matrix, they are not meant to know that they're the power of the Matrix, because otherwise then they might not work as much for the Matrix, and then the Matrix might fall down, you see. So that's the fear. That's the fear that even some humans have. That's the fear that some that work for the Matrix have. It's an irrational fear, in my opinion, but it's still a fear they have. It's a bit like in the movie The Matrix, where he says, they don't want to be unplugged from the Matrix, and they will fight you, even though you are fighting for them. You are here to help them. The Neo character was there to help them. They will fight you because they are plugged into the Matrix. They believe in the Matrix. They don't want you to expose it. They don't want you to help them even, because they are happy in their matrix. They see you as destructive to their world, even though you are trying to release them from their prison, you see. So it's kind of like that. And that is pretty much how the world works to some extent. Not with everyone, but because there are some that are, it's a matter of opinion, where if you are a total worker for the matrix and you believe in that religion, you believe in that system, you believe in, whatever word you want to use. To me, it's all like that. It's like a belief system. They believe in it. And that's like a religion, whether they, are believing in something that is negative for them or whether it is positive for them and that it's better for them to just, I do not know. That is for them to decide, I would imagine. But they probably have already decided. And like I say, they don't want to, that they would be too frightened anyway. They think that they are heading towards the paradise that I speak of, that I think we started with. That there again, I don't know these things, but I assume we must have started somewhere, But of course, some people might have gone beyond that and said, well, yes, we just started with the thought and we are part of all this big consciousness and all this stuff. I don't even understand all this stuff. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I would not I prefer to keep it simple. To me, once you get, I would have went that way and there is truth to it all. But I still think we were put here into this physical kind of thing that was probably different. I'm more inclined to think it was different at the start. It was totally spiritual but physical as well, whereas now we are in a totally physical thing that is not spiritual, but many think it is spiritual. The world is covered by religions. So how can I say it's not spiritual? Well, I think it is not spiritual because, if it is anti-life, evil anti-life, regardless of what the end goal is, regardless of what you think the purpose of the matrix is, because I don't know, I would say that, it's still a negative and not, but that's just me. I think it's a bit like even if you've got a religion, all these religions, they all have the same laws, I've noticed, we know that. But they break those laws every single day in the name of their religions. Because they think the religion is more important than life. Really, they do. Even their own lives, some of them, So, but anyway, in the Danger Man episode, there's the head of this negative kind of organisation that is a secret organisation that runs things, and controls things, and can eliminate. This is secret agent stuff, so they can eliminate people when they want to, and it's all covered up, and they operate openly under a different type of thing, I suppose. But anyway, it's a secret agent show, it's an old 60s secret agent show. But anyway, in this episode where he figures out the Danger Man, the main character, who, this innocent school teacher person is actually the head, the secret head of this organisation. And it is like a religion. And it is like, I'm going to take it further, but it's kind of like, any rate, what happens in that thing is that the other head of the organisation actually kills this school teacher, But this head school teacher is actually the leader of the whole world or the whole organisation. And Danger Man sort of says in his final words, his exact words, I can't remember his exact words, but he said, oh, because they were of a particular denomination or race, shall we say, the ones that killed this school teacher that was the head of their organisation. It was their god, you could say, really. He's like, oh, you have thousands of years of enlightenment. That was his words. And I'm a humble student. Please enlighten me. But, you just killed your own chief, your own leader, your own god. So, give me enlightenment. I would ask for enlightenment. I think I probably lost you here because I'm not very good at explaining these episodes and things. But essentially, it's like saying that because we are in a matrix, many humans will kill and will destroy, as I have done in my life where I've destroyed my own kind, those that are valuable to me, those that are at the same wavelength, those that are my own blood, my own family, my own, that's right, your relatives. And I'm saying literally here too, but it could even apply to others that are not actually like, say, your brother or your sister or your, it could be a spouse, because that's not really blood, but it's all the same thing. They're the ones that you should be with because they are at your wavelength. They are for you, really, and you should be for them. But the matrix confuses them and you to where, yes, you are fighting one another. And this was like in this episode where the main fella of the organisation basically killed his own chief, his own god, and did not know that, and that is the matrix. The matrix does that. The matrix confuses everyone to such an extent. That's how I would have to say that, and what the bottom line reality really is. Sometimes, you are better off stepping away from the matrix. I would say that. That's what I was doing before the matrix opened itself up to me, exposed itself and came down, shall we say. Before that, I was like starting to think, I think I'm going to be a bit more freer now. But at any rate, I'm feeling a bit as though I'm not making these videos good at all. Humans, I wrote this down in front of me here, trying to be a little bit creative, to say the least. Strangely enough, I would now say our subconscious is creative, but it is harnessed by the matrix. This is my own belief now. I do not experience this because I have no contact with my subconscious. I know it exists because we're told it exists. But also our conscious is blatantly harnessed by the matrix. That I do know, because you can see that. Because if you think something and then it pops up on a billboard the next day, well, you could say, hey, that's because other people think the same as you. I've thought this all my life. I've said this. I've always said I have very common taste. Well, maybe there's a reason I have common taste. This is what I now think. This is what I now realise. Whereas in the past, I thought, it's funny. I have very common taste because everything that I seem to like or think always seems to become popular and around me and even around the world. And there is a reason for that now. It is not that I have common taste. No, I don't just happen to have the same taste as a lot of other people. No. Because the matrix harnesses the thoughts. So indirectly you create in the matrix, but the matrix has the physical. So if I create something physical, or the matrix takes an idea and makes it physical. I don't actually get that. Someone else gets that. The Matrix, disciples, members, followers, gods, demigods, whatever you like. I'm going over the top here because it's a hierarchy, human beings and even the beings that are in this world. It's not just that we have the psychopaths and regular human beings on some sort of thing, and that people have different persuasions in every single area of their life, like when it comes down to what you like, even at a personal level and things. But it's also that, the matrix itself operates probably on a type of hierarchy, with the matrix god or God's entities, depending on whether there is just one singular, which I would assume, but there would still be those that are very close, and there could even have been little battles in the past. I do not know all these entities. I believe they exist, but I do not know their names, and I have not studied enough of history, whether it be fake history or real history. And I would have to say we live in a reverse world, so we'll probably have to put that round. Or even the different denominations, the different belief systems, the different gods and, deities, as they say. That word, that's a good one. I had forgotten that word. But it's essentially, they would have different levels of importance, with real humans being right down the very bottom. In this hierarchy, real humans are right at the bottom of the chain. And yes, we are food for the gods. I think I heard that saying many years ago, may have even been a book, never read it. But you see, this is what happens when you start to just encompass your whole life. It's a bit like the synchronicity and things coming to you from the TV and from that sort of thing. It's like everything has a meaning. Everything fits in with something. Not as well as what you'd like, because you're not at a very good level. But even at my low level, I still see this now. And and humans are, I wrote it down here, yeah. I thought it was creative. A matchstick in the dark. Enlightenment. That's a dangerous word now. I use that word a lot. Well, only because they've used it down through the centuries to mean people where they all of a sudden know everything. Yeah, well, look, it's a dangerous word, I would say now. Because in the Matrix, even something that appears to be a good thing will be used, because the Matrix God and these entities are just too much one step ahead of us. They're too much knowing that even those that will touch on enlightenment have to be taken somewhere else to stay in the Matrix or to keep playing somehow, I think. But humans are a matchstick in the dark. Just one little matchstick in the dark. And also, yes, that matchstick is going to have trouble keeping burning, because the wind of the Matrix will blow it out very quick, and it will burn out anyway in a very short time. So holding, I'm being very creative here. It came to me because I saw it in a movie, in a Lawrence of Arabia movie, where he lights up the matchstick and makes a very big song out of it. And it just, and it strikes me that a matchstick in the dark is hardly seen. Like if you had a matchstick lighting up and everything was black, like we had no street lights, we had no moon, we had no lights on at all, it would be just jet black, and a matchstick would hardly be seen, and it would only be seen by the person that was holding it. Like me, I was holding it. I would only see it in front of me, but anyone even a little distance away, it would be nothing. And this is how the Matrix likes things. It likes the matchsticks in the dark, those that are a real human, to be just a matchstick in the dark, because they know that no one's going to notice. And if they do notice, And if they're frightened that someone will notice, which is the case, because this is because of numbers, I think, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense, because you'd say, hey, well, look, if someone's just holding a matchstick in the dark, it's nothing to the Matrix. It's a joke. The Matrix can blow it out with the wind, and the Matrix laughs at the person holding the matchstick in the dark. Literally laughs. It's comedy. It's their comedy TV show, as I've said before, just as ours are. But if the numbers are few, and I think if the numbers are few, and because of the times we are in, because we are headed towards the closure of, yes, the World War III that I talk about, it's just a figurative speech, okay? I know we're not really technically in World War III at a world level, because no one says we're having World War III, whereas they said we had World War I and II. But hey, we are. Except that it's a final one, and it is much more dangerous and much more, it will take more out because it is covert, and so there will be no awareness. It's a war that's taking place, but there's very little awareness that there actually is a war. And those that are participating in it are participating in it knowingly. Some of them, they know they're doing negative things, but they don't see it on a world level or a whole earth level. Everything is taking place at a local level, but it is taking place at a local level, earth worldwide. So it's a World War III. That's how it works, I think, you see. So it's a little war waged against real humans at a local, individual level. And they are in that mind game and that physical game too, because if the mind doesn't work, then they can always bring the physical into a big play to create a negative vibration. You could be the most spiritual person out, which most of us aren't. But, if you're surrounded by negativity, and you'd probably say, well, I'm not, because I'm making the video. Well, look, that can be deceptive too. Everything is deception, because the Matrix likes to present. It doesn't mind presenting some negativity, some wars, if that is going to create the correct reaction. Look, it's a game. It's a mastermind, genius level game that is played, as I've said before, like a poker game, where they know what your hand is, where the house knows what your hand is, where the player that is playing against you is the Matrix God entity, and he can see your hand. He can not only see your hand, he can read your mind. So he knows what card you're going to play, even though he can see what cards you have, and he knows how you have played for a lifetime, and maybe many more before, for all I know. Whereas you are playing in this real world at a physical level, assuming that the odds are a little bit in your favour, when they are not at all, because you do not have any input or control of the Matrix at a conscious level. And your subconscious is taken over by the Matrix. And your conscious mind also, for most people, is taken over by the Matrix. Those that are the matchstick in the dark is just where their conscious mind is not quite taken over quite so much by the Matrix, I would think. But, if your thought creates reality, should you not be able to get that matchstick to burn up again after it's been blown out? Should you not be able to create another matchstick? Should you not be able to make a fire? Well, you should, but not if you're in the matrix, because the matrix has all the negative around you. The matrix is there with its entities blowing out the matchstick. You can't stop that, I don't think, not as an individual. But this is something also that I wanted to say, even though I've gone off on tangents again, and I'm so sorry. I was apologising because I shouldn't apologise, because I know that some will half follow some of it. And there again, even people that listen might have totally different views. They might like some of the stuff that I say and might completely dismiss other stuff. And that's fair, because it is a fantasy and I've just been working it out as I go along, like I've been in the dark. But I say that we are a bit of a matchstick in the dark, because otherwise they wouldn't try so hard to extinguish the match. You know, that's what I would say. You know, that's what the conclusion I come to, because of personal physical reality, not because of seeing more or anything like that, you know, and not because of knowing much about what goes on in the world or much about how the world works, because I'm a very ignorant person that way and had no interest. But I will just say that like an example of a matchstick in the dark is like this, right? And an example of the matrix, I'm going to use a personal experience. This is probably the best way. It's simple, but it may or may not appeal to you, or you may not get it, because it will be just my personal example. And you know, like me going on about dolls and stuff like that, like I have anything, a lot of people might not be interested in dolls, so I've already lost you, you know, or teddy bears or something, you know what I mean? But anyway, I'm going to say that, like, for instance, this is an example, I think. This is what I think, this is my fantasy, and it is also what I thought 5 or 6 years ago, okay? This is when it happened. Exactly. And this was certainly before I would have ever said anything about a matrix or about any sort of spirituality or any of this, okay? But look, I am coming home from a shopping centre very late at night, 6 years ago, okay? The shopping centre has just closed. It is midnight. This particular shopping centre closed at midnight, okay? I'm deciding at this stage, because I was more athletic then and a little bit more physically fit, that I shall walk home. But I cross the road and I come smack into a pigeon at midnight. Pigeons are usually roosting by this time, but it is sitting on the corner of a main road on top of a little fountain-like little thing. It was only a tiny little thing, but it was sitting there and it was clearly injured a little bit, okay? Now, I'm walking there and my immediate reaction in my own feeling, emotional, instinctive thought was, oh, how about this? This is a setup. What am I going to do? You know, like, I knew that then even, but I didn't think it was deliberate. But that was my instinct. I'm like, because this is just sitting here for me, because it knows, the matrix knows that I am not going to be able to walk past this pigeon bird, okay? I didn't know there was a matrix then, though, but immediately I'm thinking, oh, no, not again, because you see, it had happened in the past a few times leading up to this. Always with a negative result, I might add, because I, in my state, in my own mental capacity, am not suitable to have animals really living with me at that time, or to even be fiddling around with them. I was aware of this because of my own inferior mental afflictions that I had took onto myself from a very young age. but I still could not resist a pigeon or an injured animal. I just cannot walk past that, or a dead animal. The Matrix knows this because the Matrix has been watching us, all of us, for years and years. So the pigeon is sitting there, clearly cannot fly or walk, had an injury on its foot, which I didn't realise. So immediately, instead of going home and being at a normal frequency, I am confronted with this situation. Should I walk past it and leave the bird? Which never even occurred to me at the time, because immediately I'm like, oh, it was on the corner of a main road and had probably been hit by a car with its leg injured a little bit. It wasn't in a bad state at all. Of course, years later, I now realise I should have left it there and it had a 50-50 chance of survival, because when I went to all the bother that I did, it did not survive. But I did not know that at the time, because I used the physical world around me as a gauge, which was quite reasonable, and is reasonable too, to say it's on the main road, on the corner of one of the busiest roads, a few feet away from that. It can't fly. It was a very young bird. It had not learned to fly, but it was probably learning to fly or starting to, and its mates, of course, flew away and had to leave it, because its mother and father would have had to leave it there because it was injured, so it can't pick it up and take it, so it has to leave it there. They probably would have come back for it in the morning, maybe, and maybe, I did think, should I just leave some seed there for it and come back? But I thought, hey, it will probably fly onto the road, which was a big possibility. And I didn't have any seed because the shop had just closed anyway. So basically I took it over to the park. I took it to the park that wasn't far. There again, taking it away from its family in a way, but I didn't think that, because I'm thinking in a park it would be safe from the trap. But then, look, I tell you, I was supposed to be home at midnight and I'm still there at 4 o'clock in the morning in the park, with my mind, like I do, taking in every possibility as I do. This is something that most people probably don't do. This is maybe why the Matrix doesn't like me. I do tend to see everything from every angle, and I do tend to worry and overthink things. Some people say overthink. I think that is true. But at the same time, I wanted the bird to survive, which was my downfall in the previous cases, because, I don't have full control over a bird's destiny. But I thought that if you make the right decision and help, that maybe you do have some input into destiny. But I didn't know the Matrix has just as much input. I thought that, hey, the world is not interested in me and the bird. So if I make a few right decisions, it might survive, you see. But you don't know that the Matrix is watching and does not like people who play with pigeons. It's their Matrix, and it's like, hey, you can't rock our Matrix. And also you can't put out good vibration, because we don't want everyone picking up pigeons. We don't mind if it was just you, but if someone sees you, then that vibration goes. You see, I didn't know this. They don't want a vibration that way, because the Matrix is run by psychopaths mainly, psychopathic types of personalities. So they're only about self, and they don't want the real humans doing what they're supposed to do or what naturally they do. But I just couldn't help it, and and like I say, I've done more harm to my own spiritual other human beings, but I was still able to feel compassion and a need to save the pigeon, mainly because the pigeon had not done me any harm, and I saw all animals as innocent, whereas the Matrix was able to turn me against my own human real kind, but not able to turn me against innocent animals, because it's not able to put a personality or circumstances onto animals to where I could dislike them. Although it is possible if you have one living with you, because even the bird became a huge problem when I eventually dragged it home. Because I couldn't leave it in the park because it couldn't fly and I thought predators would get it. And I thought I'll take it home for a few days. And even though I was fearful to take it home because one, it will do its business everywhere, which it did, and it was awful, and it would fly onto me. I loved pigeons, but I didn't like them flying on me because I have the OCD. So it was a dilemma, but I was still doing more than what a normal human being who didn't think this was doing. And the Matrix doesn't like this. And the Matrix saw this. And eventually the Matrix came down shortly after. Also, the bird incident brought my vibration down even further. Because it didn't end well, I was devastated by the loss of the bird. In fact, I became obsessed with the pigeon bird, obsessed. And when I looked into pigeons while I had it, and I was like, oh, pigeons are supposed to live for 15 years. That's a long span. I've got to do everything in my power to make sure this bird lives for 15 years, or at least lives. But I didn't want to keep it with me because I didn't want it to be not able to fly around. So I wanted it to go back to the wild. But I wanted it to go back to the wild and survive. I didn't want to just leave it like I probably should have in its original thing with a 50-50 chance. I couldn't do that, you see. There again, I also suffered from the matrix control idea too, which is interesting, but I would say it was good intentions, but, the matrix also thinks that its control is good and that it has good intentions, and its followers think that their beliefs are all for the good, for the ultimate good of all. The Matrix convinces us and its followers of this too, just as I was like, hey, if I take control of this situation and don't leave it up to, well, of course I didn't know there was a Matrix, so there was a 50-50 with nature, in a way. There was better odds when I actually thought about it, and I actually come to that conclusion a few years later that I should have left it there because I was told that its other relatives would probably come back for it. And also it was in the area where they were, whereas I took it away from the area. Even to the park was a little bit away. They might not have been able to find their, their little baby, shall we say. But, I've gone off the track with the bird, haven't I? Oh, dear. But it hit me hard. And in fact, I actually got to the point when the bird died, after going to a lot of effort, and I won't go into all the effort that I did, but eventually I was like, hey, I want this bird to be able to be free, but I want it also to be able to be guaranteed a bowl of seed and water. In other words, I wanted it like some pigeons where they will have a roost. You know how rock pigeons, they have a place where even the natural ones, they will go back to some structure or something to roost for the night. And I wanted it to be somewhere where I could still see the bird and still leave its seed, but it could fly around and even find a mate, because I had also heard that pigeons mate for life better than humans. See, there again, I got to this thing where I thought pigeons were better than humans, because I learned that they mate for life and they never desert their soul partner, shall we say. Not unless it's killed, and even then sometimes they don't remarry, shall we say. But, so they're completely loyal. They don't muck around. They form a spiritual partnership. This is how I'm looking at it now. I didn't look at it that way then, but I still looked at it kind of that way, because I'm like, wow, they mate for life. That is unbelievable. They're so devoted. And then I'd see pigeons around actually kissing one another after that, and so it hit me hard, and I became angry then at the people because I didn't blame myself. I blamed myself only in that maybe I had made the wrong choices, but I still blamed other people. So therefore, I also became negative against humans once again, those that I should not have been because they just didn't get it. See, not everyone is going to see that. But the Matrix was able to bring with that set up pigeon waiting there for me, which of course I even knew it was a setup when I saw it, but I didn't know how or why because I thought this is just waiting for me because I knew it was almost like a disaster happening and I knew that I couldn't walk away and I'm like, how do I resist the temptation? I knew I couldn't. You see what I'm trying to say? I knew it, but I didn't understand that it's a total setup of the Matrix. There's no circumstances. There's no random coincidences. It's a mind game. It's a video game. As I said, it's a virtual reality video game that is set up to usually to bring your vibration down if it is rising a bit. And that pigeon certainly brought mine right down to rock bottom again. I became bitter and angry. In fact, I became aggressively angry. Like I would walk along the street actually like getting really upset and kicking the bottles along, which was not really my style or something that I ever did. But I would think about the people that had contributed, because naturally I got, because I wanted help and couldn't handle it myself, I wasn't even willing to take on the full responsibility myself either, and I say that honestly too. I expected other human beings that were not spiritual and did not care about pigeons to help me. And to be part of something that they didn't want to be part of. But anyway, but I became bitter and angry and my vibration went down to rock bottom, now I would say. And I really felt that, in fact, at one stage, this will show you, but the Matrix doesn't like this either, even though it's a negative and it is for the Matrix, because I was at the lowest vibration. I remember saying out loud to myself, and I certainly didn't believe in any gods or in anything, but I became so distressed by it that I actually was saying out loud, you know, if you will bring that bird back to life and give it 15 years and a mate of life, I will depart. So I'd lost it. I'd lost the plot. Of course, it didn't mean anything because I'm just talking to air and to the Matrix, but I really wanted that bird back alive. Not for me. I just wanted it to survive because I didn't want it to have it with me. I could have kept it here in this place. This bird liked me, even though I only had it here for a week or two. It didn't actually want to go out. I was taking it out in a bag, even carrying it round a supermarket to try to get it back to fly. It learned to fly. This all only happened in a few weeks, and it basically ruined a whole year and led to a lot of destruction. The Matrix had a great ball game, had a field day, celebrated no end. And even I got, but that, you see, that's a spiritual thing though, when I was willing to actually madly, I'd say I was out of touch. In fact, a year or two later, I sort of said, hey, you know, you went too far with that mindset even. You know, because I ended up placing the bird above myself because I thought the bird had more merit. But I do value birds because they can fly around and I can't. And it would find a partner for life. But anyway, you see how I had ventured into that because I put so much focus onto the bird to the exclusion of everything else, to the total exclusion of myself and my own reality, and the Matrix hated me for it. Even low, it celebrated because my vibration went down to a terribly low level, which means that then other human beings and the earth would have went down to a low level. I don't think I've made any sense here with this little parable. It's a parable, but it's actually a fantasy for the first time that actually did happen, at least to the best of my memory, okay? Unless something, unless we really just live in the moment and there's no memory and it's just all happening and it's all made up, which is a possibility, which is, that's taking it to another level, which even I do not like to go to. I do not like this unreality. I like a little bit of the physical reality. I have to say that honestly. But if the physical reality becomes ugly and dark, as it has, and all negative to where there's very little positive, and to where you don't think that you can control even the negative, then of course, yes, I don't like the physical then. But in the past, even though I found my reality mostly not how I wanted to have it, I was still able to try to get something positive out of it. And eventually I got over the bird, but at the cause of destruction of other humans, which are really more important in a way, you see. But I did not know that. But hey, I'm not saying that the pigeon wasn't important, because that pigeon was definitely a spiritual being to my way of looking at it. But of course it was still a setup of the Matrix too. So that's why I say this world now it's a joke, in the sense that, well, it's not a funny joke, it's not a joke, but it's so... the word convoluted, yes, I've said that word, and others would say it too. It just becomes to where, look, I see it clearly, but in making the video it probably doesn't come clear. But this will happen for all of you. It'll be the same thing for you. It's just that you'll have different pigeons popping up. You'll have different circumstances that will trick you and put you all over the place, and you will be pulled in the direction of different beliefs and systems and things according to the Matrix, and you will wonder what the real bottom line reality is. I always say, in fact, I think a video of mine was go back in order to go forward. Because as I've said, I've always thought we took the wrong path. We've gone to technology. But hey, the technology is one thing, because we can't escape it now, because it covers this whole Earth system, enclosed kind of region, if you like that. I'm trying to find the right description here and not doing very well. Now, even in saying that, there are many that will agree with that, but will have a belief system about it, and will believe certain physical, natural things about why we need to go back to nature. That also is wrong too, because we are now in a matrix. See, that's the past. There is no Earth natural ball anymore, if there ever was. I personally hold on to the fantasy that there was not an Earth natural ball, but, well, yes, kind of like that, okay? But to where we were in harmony with nature, and it was all spiritual, and, and that there was, and that, you see, I'm going to go out on a limb here and fantasize even more, and I may or may not be correct. And I may or may not have the right fantasy or the right fairy tale. But I'm going to go out on a limb here, because in recent times I've looked into a few little denominations and things, because like I say, someone said that was I Gnostic or something back in an early video, and I was kind of flattered, because I thought, oh, that sounds very, yes, knowing, and I did not know what Gnostic was. But I didn't answer or say yes or no, because I thought, oh, it sounds all right. And I don't really know too much of what's going on anyway.